8K video, 30 frames per second, 30-minute limit, 50 megapixels at 30 frames per second, which is insane on its own. And then it also has the best bits of the A7S III. 10-bit, 422, 4K 120, internal, full HDMI port, active stabilization, the new menus. It's a monster of a camera. That's it. The A1. Here's the video stuff. 8K.
8K 30p shooting.
The reason that you're going to want 8K, is because the crop ability. So if you want to crop in on something and still have it in 4K, that's where something like 8K is useful. You really don't need it to show any detail at this point. 4K always looks amazing anyway. So 8K is more for if you want to zoom in and then reframe it in post. Also 4K 120, so the best video from the A7S III, 10-bit, 422 internal, you now have on this camera as well.
A maximum of 30 minutes when shooting in 4K 60p or 8K, which enables...
So potentially no overheating. And another point there as well, you saw with the screen, it's not a flip out screen. It's because it's more of a photography based camera with video features. Oh, full HDMI port as well there. Oh, it has S-Cinetone.
S-Cinetone, popular on the cinema line
That
FX9
is
and
a big deal.
FX6, which delivers cinematic expression.
People will buy it for video just for that.
When shooting video, active mode image stabilization is activated optically.
I use active a lot on my A7S III and it really works well. It gives you a little bit of a crop. I don't know if it does on this. Yeah, image slightly cropped, but it works well. That's really interesting. So they're pitching their new phone as a potential monitor solution as well. But then you can also use that to offload via 5G if you wanted to. So you need to send your photos because you don't have access to an Ethernet cable. You could do that as well. It's a pretty genius way of trying to sell their phones because typically people don't really buy Sony phones. That's Jason Vong. That means he must have one.
Performance of real-time tracking has also been improved, allowing for more reliable tracking of moving subjects.
50 megapixels at 30 frames per second, no blackout. What that means is when you hold down the shutter, it's not gonna go black as it's taking images. You're gonna see everything as if you were just watching it with your eye. So I think a big reason that this camera's coming out now is because the Olympics is coming this year, and Pro Body with the Olympics is a really good thing for Sony to have. FTP is used for transferring images really, really quick. So that's why I think they're kind of bringing it out now, in my opinion. Before you start thinking, I need to sell my A7S III and get this, you don't really, unless you need stills and video in one. But you're gonna have to pay for it. $6,498. That is an expensive camera. What's the FX6? Isn't that $5,998? It is. It's more expensive than the FX6, but I mean, rightly so. With S-Cinetone, you get 8K as well, plus it's a stills camera. So honestly, that price is kind of justified. From the promotional videos that they were showing, it looks like this has the new menu system, which is a big, big upgrade. The old menu systems, once you get used to them, they're fine, but the new menu systems from the A7S III, they're substantially better. Things are just laid out better. If you're in photo or video modes, you have native menus for each of those, so you don't see all the photo options if you're in the video mode and vice versa, which is pretty useful. Now, being a pro camera, it has connections like Ethernet for being able to quickly transfer or offload photos if you're a news photographer or a sports photographer and you need to quickly get those to your media outlets, you can do that. So the 8K is actually 10-bit 420, you don't get 422. And it's 30 minutes maximum recording, and it's actually 8.6K oversampled video. The big thing for this is going to be whether it overheats or not, and the only way to find out is going to be once people start getting their hands on it and they really put it through its paces to test it. 15 stops of dynamic range for stills and 15 stops plus for video, so you basically have the same dynamic range in the A7S III and 15 plus stops for video. That's basically the same as the FX6. IAF for humans, as we've had before, and animals, and new IAF for stills, for birds. So if you shoot photos of birds for a living, or that's a hobby you have, expensive hobby you have, you can now get crispy, clean shots of eyes of birds. 2 memory card slots, the same as the A7S III, so you can use the CF Express Type A and SD cards. They got those clever little dual ports. There's 2 of those in there as well. EVF is the same as the A7S III, but the refresh rate on the A1 appears to be better at 240 frames per second. I don't ever remember seeing Sony quote the frames per second on the EVF. So it's likely better on this, the A1, because it's a stills camera. You don't really need the EVF so much for video, especially at something like a refresh rate. S-Cinetone is going to be a big deal for this as well. The A7S doesn't have this. I really wish they'd add it. The FX6, I'm testing it right now back there. The S-Cinetone is just beautiful straight out of the camera. So this is going to be a fantastic hybrid camera for anyone that has any pro shooter that shoots stills and video. This is going to be the best hybrid camera you can buy right now. All in all, a very spec heavy camera, directly competing with the Canon R5. I know that a lot of the overheating issues have been solved with that, or at least better. It will just be interesting to see how they stack up against the A1 when it comes out and people compare them side by side, because I'm sure that is going to happen. Right, that was it for today, just a little update. I'm interested in this stuff, and if you follow this channel, you probably are as well. So there you go. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.